single dollar, from the biggest expense, such as rent, because rent usually takes 60% of everybody's income from everywhere around the world, all the way down to the cost of bubble tea. So let's set aside what you've heard in the past, because this is going to be a real budget, a real lifestyle, and a real secret to not just living there, but also thriving in Asia's most incredible countries. And ironically, since Taipei is a lot more expensive than other places like the Philippines or Japan, you could potentially take the same lifestyle experience and incorporate it through most of East Asia. And your money will go a lot further in some of the cheaper areas without having to reduce the quality of luxury. So remember, this isn't about scraping by. It's about living an amazing life while planning for financial independence. So let's get into the numbers and see just how far your money can really go. All right, so we're going to start with the single biggest expense that terrifies most people when they think about moving abroad. And no, actually, it's not how do you ship your stuff there, because that was my main focus. Because if a person costs like $2,000 to get there, how much would like a 4 or 5 bedroom house cost to get shipped over there? Nope, that's not the most expensive thing over there. Maintaining the rent once you get there is the most expensive thing you got to deal with when you get over there. This is a number that makes or breaks a lot of people's budgets. One of the things that can define your entire quality of life. So, in a lot of global cities, a $3,000 budget would mean a huge compromise on location, size, or quality. But in Taipei, it's a completely different story. So what you would get living in Taipei would be genuinely considered a luxury apartment. And it's the foundation of your whole budget. When we say luxury, we don't mean gold-plated faucets and MC Hammer style golden toilets, but we do mean real luxuries of city living: convenience, space, modern amenities, maybe toilet paper, and some security. Now, if you take a look at modern apartments, 1 bedroom spots in the great central districts, we're going to be talking about a building with a 24-hour security guard, a bright, clean lobby, and this is a big one, a dedicated garbage disposal room in the basement. You know, this is the type of luxuries that we're dealing with, where it's very cramped there. That's what you would think. That's what you would think. We are more cramped in more ways than you think in comparison to other countries. The inner city does build upward, and especially in low-income societies over there, or not societies, standards over there, they do have certain areas where an apartment might be 700 square feet, and because it's not, it might be 700 square feet with just like the 4 walls, and then they'll use dividers and stuff like that to break things up. That's what we remember and think, oh yeah, they're very cramped. But there's also apartments and houses that are far bigger than the ones we have in the United States. They have houses with 25, 30-foot ceilings. They have architecture all over the place, ancient Asian calligraphy all over the place. It's not just, I mean, when you start talking about going cheap, yeah, you might find yourself cramped. Yeah, you might. The cheaper you get, the less amenities you have. Like, for example, a really cheap place might not have a shower. It might have a toilet, but it might not have a shower. So you would go to the public bath. The amount of money that you're saving on water to go to the public bath is probably cheaper than the cost of the public bath. Me personally, not that social. I don't see myself in a public bath. I would pay extra money to have my public bath in my house or my apartment. Um, it really depends, but it's not necessarily. Um, you really have to think about how you're willing to spend to be cramped. Because if you're trying to go out there on $800 to $1,000 budget, yeah, you'll be cramped. You'll be cramped. You and like four other people will be sleeping on the floor next to one another, and the most you'll have between each other is that divider. Yeah, you'll be cramped. But again, when we start talking about $3,000 a month for a standard of living, that's not necessarily, you have your own space. Now, for individuals that have their own apartments, whether it's a 500 square foot apartment, 2,000 square foot apartment, you got that whole area by yourself. You might find your space reasonable. Now, when you put a partner in there, a husband or a wife, some kids in there, that same space might be cramped. A 3-bedroom apartment for 2 people sharing the same bedroom, huge, plenty of guest space. But that same 3-bedroom apartment with 2 adults and 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl, or 2 girls, 1 boy, cramped. Because one of the 2 boys is going to want their own room, one of the 2 girls is going to want their own room, and you typically, after a certain age, don't put the boys and the girls in the same room. And God forbid you get pregnant for a 4th, and one room has to be for the baby, you're cramped. But it's how much you're trying to put in one space that actually makes it cramped. You as one person going to a 1-bedroom apartment over there, how cramped could you imagine it? They're not shoving you in a closet. You know, they're not shoving you in a closet. So if you do have a 1-bedroom apartment over there, it's going to be just as good, if not better, than a 1-bedroom apartment in the United States. I mean, the only difference is, does it have a flushable toilet? Does it have well, I understand that, but I mean, when you say cramped is going to imply you are going to have to share a small quantity of space with a large quantity of people, and that only comes from the design. Like if y'all girls trip, you and like 4 other girls go out to a trip, and y'all want to go rent this one place, like an Airbnb style scenario, and y'all thought that it was going to be bigger, but it's like 2 rooms, the kitchen, and then everywhere else. That's cramped. But if it was you by yourself, it could be just a kitchen and everywhere else, and it wouldn't be cramped. Now, if you've got a 5-bedroom house on a 20-acre piece of property, and then you go to Taipei and get you a 1-bedroom apartment, yeah, that's going to be a lot smaller than what you're used to. But if you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment right now, when you get a 1-bedroom apartment over there, the only thing you're missing is the room you never go into. So it's really only perspective. So if you don't know about living in Taiwan, the last part might sound a lot weirder than you might hope, but for millions of people there, waiting for a garbage truck is something that they don't do. Rolling garbage down to the street like we do in America, that's something that they don't do. They don't have stuff lying around all over the place. Yeah, you got some of the ones that are in low income situations that are somewhat hoarder style. They will have all of their stuff piled up in the corner up against the wall, right? Very few walk-in closets, you know what I mean? But if you organize, look, modern times, we've got furniture that is storage space, a bench that you can actually use as a a chest for your clothes. You've got now, instead of beds that are just empty underneath, now you've got beds with drawers underneath them so that you can put stuff underneath the bed. Instead of just shoving it underneath the bed, you can actually fold it up neatly and put it in drawers underneath the bed. They make beds right now that lift like the hood of a car, and you can fold stuff up and put it into those. So you can be a little bit more organized. One of the things that you learn with Asian culture is that they hide away stuff instead of just leaving it all out in the open all over the place. Instead of having 12 baskets of clothes just lined up in the hallway, they might have them folded up and put in different areas. Like this chair might fold out to be something different. The utilization of space comes from your ability to think outside of the box, and then you actually have more room. But if you think about a 750 square foot space, and then you're going to put 200 square foot TV, 4 beds, queen size beds, you're running out of space. We haven't gotten to the dressers, the chifforobe. We haven't gotten to the shoe closet that doesn't exist. You're going to make one. You don't have enough room to walk around. Dining table that's like 15 feet long for 20 people when you don't have any friends out there. So you have to really think about practicality, and that's one of the things that we're going to get to here. So the rituals that we have in America, like walking our trash out to the road, no, they bring bag by bag downstairs to the basement and let the guys come and get them whenever they come and get them. So being able to toss your trash whenever you want in a small but majorly upgraded scenario is a quality of life that usually only gets uh, experienced in newer buildings. And the difference between us going out in the rain, taking out our trash, and them going downstairs inside and dropping it off, and then somebody coming to get it in the rain while we don't have to go outside and get wet. The apartments itself is very spacious in comparison to what you believe. And this is stuff that we're not used to. So it's not a suburban house, but for one person or even a couple, it is more than enough space. It's got open plan living room and kitchen area, which is what we've been talking about. So the bathroom is separate with plenty of closet space, but it's not necessarily just a whole nother room like walk-in closets like what you would see in a suburban home. And then you also have a modern bathroom. So the buildings that they have now are also having small but solid gyms in there and a rooftop terrace, which is something that we don't experience in America, because if you go to an apartment complex, unless you're in downtown, there is no rooftop. But truth, as you see on all of the K-pop drama that you see on Netflix, they're always hanging out on the roof because there is always something on the roof, right? So from the basement to the roof, they utilize space. So they don't need as much space as we do because we don't utilize space. We spread everything out, right? And then try to build a fire escape. Here's a quick question, Nicole. What is your escape route in case of a fire? Because a lot of people have to hurdle over something, zigzag through, and then they're going to be trying to grab valuables along the way and carry as much stuff as they can as they try to get out of the house. Hopefully out of the front door, because a lot of people that don't live on the first floor in an apartment can't really go out of a window unless they're in, well, you're in Detroit, so you guys got fire escapes, but not a lot of people have that. Out the window. Assuming that there's a fire escape there, because navigating, if there's a multi-story unit navigating to the ground floor without an elevator, nobody has a plan. Utilizing your space, and you've lived there for a long period of time. So when we were kids, when we were 15, 14, 12, 9, we had a fire escape plan. Our parents would go over it. This is how you get out of the house. This is the nearest exit to where you are. And now as adults, we don't even have a plan to escape our own house if it's burning down. And I'm not saying that they're any better than us over in Asia, but the fact is that they're utilizing their space a whole lot more effectively. We're not even able to utilize our space in case of an emergency. So if we think about how much stuff we could adjust to be a lot less cluttered, we would have more than one escape plan instead of just going out the nearest window and plummeting to our deaths, final destination. Likely could navigate through to the front door, or if there's a back door, navigate through to a back door, and find alternatives. So take this into consideration, because they had this killer view of city skylines in Taipei, including that famous Taipei Building 101. And they have parades like no tomorrow out there. But this isn't a cramped studio apartment style scenario, okay? It's a comfortable modern home in prime spots. So what would something like that cost? This type of apartment in central and desirable, meaningful areas of Taipei would have rent somewhere around 1,200 US dollars per month, which is around 3,800 Taiwan dollars. But $1,200 a month for a reasonably sized apartment with a indoor garbage disposal location downstairs, outside of your apartment, gym, uh, a terrace on the roof, all of this for $1,200. We got a dumpster behind our car outside and a gym at the leasing office, and we have to commute to that by car or on foot in the inclement weather to either the trash can or the dumpster. That's what we would have in America. Everything is spread out. But you don't even have to go outside to go to the gym. You don't have to go outside to go to the dumpster. You only have to go outside to go to the roof for $1,200 a month. And another thing in Taiwan, there are a lot of apartment complexes that have convenience stores in the complex. They have shops in the complex. So you might be on floor 10 or floor 5, and on floor 2 is the local convenience store. And in the basement is the dumpster. So you only really leave your complex when what you don't need or what you need doesn't exist in your complex. It's very interesting. But let's put that into perspective, because that's about 40% of the total budget if you are going to Taipei with a $3,000 a month income. That might sound like a lot, but in America, we're living off of 68% of our income. And if we were living off of 68% of our income, we would likely be spending closer to $2,000 or $2,500 on that $3,000 budget. But think about what we're getting for this. Because more importantly, we can also think about what's left over. So after paying for premium living space, you still have $1,800 left in your budget to cover everything else for the whole month. And of course, housing is where your costs can vary most, but it is consistent once you get in there. While a recent report places Taipei's median rent for a one bedroom at around $9,700 or $973, it is still way more affordable than other places like Singapore or Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is about as expensive as living in New York. Okay. But if your only goal is to save a little bit of money, you can easily chop that expense in half, because if you wanted to go live in an older building without the doorman, without the security guard, no gym, that might run you $800 a month. You can move to a less central but still super convenient district like Nihu, and find a smaller place. That's when you start getting closer to being cramped. Or you could live in New Taipei City, which is just 30 minutes. Uh, I believe MRT ride. It's like a transit system, and that's 30 minutes away. Oh, train system. And that's where you can find apartments that are fantastically priced at $600 to $700 a month. That's when you start dealing with cramped. That's when you start dealing with like 300 to 500 square feet and roommates. When you're doing $600 a month for rent over there, but it's $600 a month for rent. Where are you going to find living by yourself $600 a month for rent in the United States? It's not possible. You can have your own space, your own quarters, like a mother-in-law suite, a loft, in-law suite, or something like that, whatever they want to call it, the extra room in the house that nobody else that lives in the house is using. You can rent a room for $600 or $800 a month in the United States, but to have your own space there, not $600 or $700 a month. Yeah, you're 71 years old in a completely unique environment with your calendar on the wall for women to come over to shag like Austin Powers. So every time we talk logic, Michael, you have to be the exception. So we understand. But this is just the most expensive cities on the island. So if you take a look at a $3,000 budget in places like Taichung or Kaohsiung, the numbers would become almost comical because Taichung, known for its great weather and laid back vibe, has rent that is often around 20 to 30% lower than Taipei. So when they're like $1,200 a month, you take 30% off, you're looking at $800 a month. If you go further south to the port of Kaohsiung, and the difference there is even bigger because the rent went up to about 45% cheaper, which is half. So instead of $1,200, you're looking at $600. So a one-room bedroom is now being seen in central part of Kaohsiung, somewhere easily found between $400 and $700 a month. $400 a month. You're not finding. Michael doesn't have a place that's $400 a month. So if you're spending $1,200 a month on rent in Taipei, this is exactly that, a choice. But it's a lifestyle choice to get that premium lifestyle, a seemingly Americanized lifestyle experience in the most expensive parts of the country and still live an incredibly comfortable lifestyle. So it shows that with $1,000 budget, you're still in the driver's seat and you can prioritize a fancy apartment, or you can slash your housing costs and have an even bigger pile of cash to play with. Because if you're the kind of person that doesn't really stay at home and you don't really care what your house is like, you could get that $400 or $500 a month apartment, and then you have an extra $2,500 a month to commute to the public bathhouse, socialize with the locals, go out and have fun with other individuals, crash at their place because your place sucks, and you could still find yourself in a better position. It doesn't work as much for men because typically the men bring the women home with them. But for a woman, you'd probably be able to get off like a bandit like that because you would start in the not so appealing place, but you would find yourself ending up at somebody else's house, whether it's a girl's night out or you get your boyfriend or whatever the case may be, and you crash at their place. Your place doesn't exist anymore. But if we're starting from a place with comfort to prove that even a high-end housing has the budget that works beautifully inside of $3,000, this is what we want to talk about today. So with the biggest expense out of the way, let's talk about the fuel for the lifestyle, your day-to-day costs of food and transportation and bills. This is where Taiwan really starts to shine because we're looking at the power of this $3,000 budget becoming even clearer, because after your $1,200 is gone for the rent, with that $1,800 left, you might think that comfort is not all that cozy, but it actually can be for the month, especially living in the city capital. Before we get into what's going on there, you said, do you feel the job market is competitive there? Everybody's coming to America because they think that they're going to make more money, because they look at the price of the job, not the cost of living. A lot of clients that are going from Taipei to California because California has like $250,000 jobs, $260,000 jobs. Standard of living there is $230,000. So I mean, you're going over there with a $20,000 difference between the cost of living and your income. It's not always what it seems to be. Now, when you start going to other countries, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish there. Because when you start talking about getting a job over there, you start talking about the possibility of citizenship, residency, local visas, work visa, digital nomad visa. If you have a job where you're getting paid off the computer like I am, in order for you to do what you do, you can just take your job with you as long as you have functional internet and do what you got to do and get paid. And if you're getting paid American dollars on an American lifestyle in Taiwan, you're going to save a lot of money. If you're trying to work there in person, it's going to depend on what kind of job you're trying to get. And if they're hiring, you'll be able to get a job over there. But one of the problems you're going to have with being a local is you will have to learn the language. Because as a tourist, you can wander around with translation software and kind of wing it with communication, because it only impacts you. But when you go there to work, you're not going to have the luxury of trying to wing it, unless you're getting a job that does not interact with the customer, because you have to be able to understand what the customer is saying, and you have to be able to translate that to get the job done. So is the market competitive for them? About as competitive as it is for us over here. But our job market is more competitive, in my observation, than their job market, because they are coming over here to be an American, not knowing what being American requires. And when I say that, I say, Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, ICE raids. And this isn't new behavior. It's just being done by a different department, because police used to run up in our houses all the time without a warrant, and we didn't have protesters in the street. But now, because it's another government agency on the ground doing the same thing that everybody else is doing in a more extreme fashion, we now have protesters on the street. But one of the things you'll find over there is they don't really have the type of locked door policy that we have. Everybody knows each other. Everybody's close knit with one another. Networking is fairly easy over there, which means you might be able to find you can't hire an interpreter for your job. You can be an interpreter on the job. You can hire an interpreter as a tourist, but you cannot pay an interpreter to help you translate how to do your job. It would cost more money for the interpreter than it would for you to do the job. But I understand your logic, Michael. If you're doing it on your own, get you an interpreter, or save you some money and use some technology to help you communicate with others, translation apps and stuff like that. Those headphones, the earbuds that translates communication, the AI smart glasses that translates communication to text, so that you can see what people are saying. But it really depends. So like if you're in a nursing field or something like that, you might have a way in there. But then again, depending on which city you're going to, the hospital might not be hiring. If you're an average workforce industry, you might be able to wash dishes, cook food, and whatever the case may be, without having to talk to the customers and not know a lick of their language and still be able to turn over a profit. Housekeeping is big there. You can always be a housekeeper for somebody and not have to know much about anything, just enough to follow instructions. Um, Chauffeurs, you can do certain occupations that don't require you to know much about anything, but still have the physical skill set to get the job done and turn you a profit. There are jobs over there. But when you start talking about like high end jobs, when you start talking about highly competitive jobs, is just as highly competitive over there than it is over here. You know, it's not like you get a special foot in because you're a foreigner, unless it's a teacher, engineer, it's a something that's going to be like in the um, top tiers of their country's development, just like us. The people that get the H-1B visas when they come to America, they have to be in STEM projects, technology. They have to be like they can come in medicine, stuff to that effect. They have to be like improving the foundation of our infrastructure in order to be here. They have to get master's degrees and PhDs to come here when we can function as high school dropouts and stay here. You know what I mean? So they have to be above the standard quality of the rest of us. So ultimately, every foreign national that has gotten a U.S. citizenship in America is on paper better than and more qualified to be an American than every American citizen that was born in the country. That's their criteria. Now, when you think about that, other countries set that same standard, but their standards are a little less because in other countries you can buy your way in and it doesn't cost you a $5 million like it does to get a visa in America. Over there, $250,000, you can buy you a house or whatever the case may be, and all of a sudden your money made you a citizen in some of those countries. So you don't have to be the best of the best of the best to get into those countries. You just have to spend enough to get there. In America, you've got to be the best of the best of the best or the richest to get into this country. So I hope that long-winded explanation helps answer your question about the competitive markets. But let's start with this food because honestly, this is one of the best parts for me when we go living in other countries. The food scene is legendary there. It is not just about fancy restaurants, but about the variety and the incredible value at every price point. Your monthly food budget could be around 450 US dollars over there, which is similar to what you would get in America, but you would eat like a king in that particular price range. So if you think of your food in spending tiers, first you would have that dirt cheap but ridiculously delicious local foods. You wonder about the quality of the food because there's rumors on social media that they dig leftovers and all of this other stuff. Um, you really got to not pay attention to what social media puts out there because if you've never been there, the fake news could have you develop stereotypical bias against a country's performance before you get there. You probably are going to have to bring you a couple Tums, some Prilosec, and deal with some digestive differences after you get there because your stomach will experience a culture shock, even if the rest of you don't. But it's not because the food is lower quality. It is because you're not used to the ingredients that they put in their food. And if you're a person that has high protein and low fiber, you go over there and get you a high fiber diet, and your colons are being flushed out. And you can do that here in America. You don't have to go anywhere. You just change the style of foods that you eat, and you can go from solid to liquid poop in a heartbeat. But when you're going to another country, you don't know what they put in their food. And since you don't know what they put in their food, you have higher risk to experience an allergy. You have a higher risk of experiencing something that changes your body's digestive tract, increasing your metabolism, which might cause you to have the runs for a little bit. Prepare for that. But beyond that, the food is great. And uh, you're going to deal with night markets, which me being a night owl, I love it. You have hole in the wall spots. Not too big of a fan of that, but we go to little watering holes here in America, karaoke bars and stuff to that effect, and they have similar experiences out there. So for just a few US dollars, you can get a world class meal, and we're talking huge bowls of beef noodles, in a soup for $5. A bayandang, which is a lunchbox with rice, a main uh, three side dish scenario for like $3 to $4, or a bag of 10 steamed hot dumplings for just $2. Now, you think about, we would really have to go there and see what the food portion size is, because when we think about like 10 dumplings, we think about like 10 donuts. But they're like, dumplings can actually be like beef filled dumplings, rice and bean filled dumplings. So when you imagine a dumpling, compare a dumpling to a burrito from Taco Bell. That doesn't make your stomach upset. And imagine 10 of those, right? The beef and bean burrito, the steak, chicken and steak burrito. Imagine that rolled up like a dumpling. Okay. You get full off of something like that for $3 or $4. 10 burritos from Taco Bell, not $3 or $4. Might be $3 or $4 each, but not $3 or $4. So you're getting a lot of food for very little money. And he asked a question, how do you like rat? Well, against all rumors, they're not out there grabbing rodents off the side of the street and slaughtering them. Okay. They're not capturing cats and turning them into egg rolls or barbecuing dogs or anything to that effect. So while the rumors are out there that, I mean, look at the food that we eat, because there's not very many animals that exist on American soil, from rodent to reptile, that we're not willing to cook up in some type of meal. So before you make it seem like the people in Asia are like eating the most disgusting stuff that you can imagine, uh you don't know where your meat comes from. So you buy it at the store. You don't know what's in your chicken nuggets. You buy it at the store. So you don't know what's in the meat at Burger King or McDonald's. You buy it at the store and you just eat it. If it looks like beef, you eat it. But you'll come to find out that in Taipei, they have a lot of tofu out there where it tastes like meat, but it's not meat. It actually doesn't have any meat in the diet at all. It's covered in soy, which I can't handle, but the dynamic is that the food over there is actually pretty good. So a lot of your lunches are going to fall into these kind of categories because it's enough to get you by. And the reason why we're talking about it at these sizes is specifically because in the Asian culture, they actually do have laws that prohibit obesity, where someone, I have not verified who specifically, whether it's the individual person or the companies that provide the food, gets taxed for the fat people that exist in the country. This is true to life. So the whole culture's structure is to encourage people to not overindulge. Eat a little bit more often, put a lot of effort into your food prep. Everybody eat together as a family. Even if you don't know each other, you get to know each other over a meal, and you turn that into a ritual. If you're hungry, you can get more. But again, when you're thinking about that cramped lifestyle that you were talking about, Nicole, the cramped thought, they're not going to have a big ass fridge with all of this extra leftovers in there. They eat when it's time to eat, and that's it. So bento boxes, which are little lunch boxes that have a little bit of food in it for later, that's about it. That's what they rock with. And any extra leftovers, that's how you make more friends there. They would take the leftovers that's not going to be eaten by everybody that's full and bring it to somebody who wasn't involved in the dinner and give it to them and let them eat it. Instead of letting it spoil in the house or throw it in the trash, they will give it to the neighbors. And then that will lead the neighbors to coming over and returning the dishes, or coming over and bringing new dishes. And then you end up having more people eating in your dinners. So everybody knows everybody out there because of this type of sharing scenario. They don't overindulge and buy too much, and the people work together. It's not just the women in the kitchen doing the food prepping cooking all the food like y'all think that's what the men want out there, but shit, y'all, they got men out there preparing the food for 5 hours so that the women can cook it up. It's a team effort. It's a team effort. The hard, heavy stuff the men are gonna do, and the light duty work the women might do, but it's going to be tedious and everybody's going to contribute, even the children. And that helps the meal get done so that when the meal is eaten, everybody enjoys it because they all put into it together. There's a bonding moment to the meal prep that we don't experience in American culture, which actually would be better dates for the first like 10 or 15 dates. Instead of going to a restaurant for a few $100s, let's go to a cooking class, or let's take turns cooking at each other's houses, and actually do it together, kind of thing. Because the prepping of the food, the engagements, the conversation, the interaction with one another, and then the results of the food, and being able to eat that and enjoy each other's company throughout the entire event, that is actually a lot more of a bonding scenario than what we are used to with entertaining each other with like Drake concerts and shit. So it's a different way of life. It's something that you got to get yourselves into. Is that and they do also have cheeseburgers and fries along with soul food as well. Yes, they have Western culture food there. It is not exclusively just Chinese food, Japanese food, Taiwanese, Vietnamese food. They have McDonald's, Burger King. They have Subways over there. You can fly. It's $2,000 trip to the other side of the world to get you a #1 Big Mac value meal. You can do it. You can do it. I would discourage it. I would discourage going to the other side of the world to get the exact same thing that you can get right here in the United States. I would encourage you to go over there and eat something you have never eaten before. Eat it because you don't recognize it. Eat it because it smells different. Eat it because the other people around you are eating it and they haven't died yet. Eat it. You might like it. But going over there and sticking to what you're familiar with, you're not evolving your palate. You are not enhancing your cultural experience. You're sticking to what you know, which defeats the purpose of going somewhere else, because you're supposed to be learning something new from somewhere else. But what you can also do, though, if you're the kind of person that has a lot of experience in soul food, you can go over there, get some of their ingredients. You can make some soul food for them and let them eat it and see what they like about it. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. They are honest with you. So if your food sucks, they are going to tell you in their native language how horrible your food tastes. But if they eat it, it's good. Now, on a tier step up, you have casual restaurants and cafes. This is where a lot of us might go for a weekend brunch or a nice dinner. If you're not the kind of person to cook for yourself, not because you're lazy, but just because you just don't have the time or you don't make the time, this could be a good position for you, which again is another cultural experience, because if you eat out on a regular basis, while it will cost a little bit more, you're probably going to go to the same restaurants to get food. So you might be there 2 or 3 times a day. You might go to the same cafes to get something to drink. You're going to be there quite a few times a day. They have laws out there that prohibit you to eat and commute. So eating your food on the bus might get you in trouble. Eating your food on the train might get you in trouble. There are certain designated areas where you're legally allowed to eat. So you can't just eat it anywhere. But if you make time to sit down and eat, even if you don't make time to make your food, you can find yourself going to the same places or going to multiple different places, where the place you always go for breakfast might not be the place you go for lunch and dinner, but you might see them every day because you always eat at this time of day, right? Which you're going to build a rapport with them. They're going to enjoy your company if you're pleasant, and they might start introducing you to their network because you are always there, right? And when their network comes in, oh, this is my new customer, come meet my new customer. That they're going to be very friendly about that. This is our new regular kind of thing. But everything in this category is still going to be a reasonable cost, because a great brunch with a coffee might set you back about $15. I had a great brunch last week for about 50 bucks. I'm talking what we had. We had a few burgers, some nuggets, some fries, and some drinks between two people. So if I was eating that by myself, it would have been $24. I went to Subway and spent $22 in Subway the week before that. It's expensive in America, but a sit down meal, a good mid range restaurant, so like a 3 to 5 star restaurant. And when I say a mid range restaurant, imagine a Chili's or a Bennigan's or a TGI Fridays, 3 4 star restaurant, right? Meals are like 20 bucks, 20 US dollars. You're thinking, shit, we get that here, 2 for $25 at Olive Garden, right? But we can do this multiple times a week without even blinking. If you wanted to increase your budget and go to $4,000, you could probably do this every single day. When we look at those groceries, while eating out is cheap, cooking at home can be even cheaper, but depending on what you're cooking, could actually cost you more money than eating out. And they have so many different places in Taipei that have prepared meals where you could easily go to the convenience store and purchase what you would have made at the house for almost the same cost of making it yourself at the house. Again, those bento boxes. So something like $150 a month for groceries, shopping at a mix of traditional wet markets for the fresh produce and supermarkets like PX Mart or Carrefour for everything else. You know what I mean? This is still going to be a journey, because grocery shopping, you're going to have to take a whole day to bounce around all the different places and catch everything on the cheapest deals. Now, if you're going to go to a buy all here place, it's going to cost a whole lot more. Another thing you got to think about is when you go to other countries as a foreigner, all of the local foreign friendly spots have foreign unfriendly prices. So you'll find yourself in a situation where you're going to pay more money in the area where people speak English than what you would have paid in the area where the people don't speak any English, because the further away from the tourist spots, the cheaper everything gets. And y'all know, every city and state that y'all have ever been in, the tourist spot be bumping. Everything is expensive there. But in the quiet rural areas, often the outskirts, very few street lights, very little traffic, everything is cheap as bejesus. The same stuff that costs an arm, leg, and an eye downtown costs little or nothing off in the outskirts on the other side of town. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So a week's worth of fresh veggies in a local market over there might cost you like $10. That's pretty affordable. And this isn't a budget for like ramen and toast. It's for cooking full, healthy meals all week long and not being starving. So for $450, you have complete freedom. If I just gave you the ability to do it with $150, $450 is $300 extra worth of spending freedom. You can eat cheap local food. You can cook at home. You can splurge on nice dinners several times a month without any stress. It's the polar opposite of scarcity. It's going to feel like a total abundance of resources. Then when you take transportation into effect, getting around Taipei is going to be a dream. I have a little bit of trouble traveling with a dog because they have different laws out there about dogs and transportation. I would spend more money on my own personal commuting. If not getting a taxi or an Uber, I would have my own car there so that I do not have to deal with the cramped space and everyone trying to sniff my dog's butt, because they are a very animal friendly culture. Doesn't mean that there's enough space for the dog on the bus. Standing room only. But public transportation systems, They're very world class. That MRT transit system, Taipei subways, very clean, efficient, and safe. And it's going to be ridiculously cheap. So a typical ride across the city costs less than $1. We're not getting that kind of ride nowhere. You hop on buses in Florida and you're looking at like $4 to get on two buses, right? You got to buy you an all-day pass, which is like $5 or $7 to get you everywhere you're going to go for the day. You're spending $70 for a month pass to ride the buses all month for less than $1. You're on the other side of the country over there. Daily commutes, weekend travels around the city, you're going to spend on average around $40 a month. That's it. $40 to have the whole city at your fingertips. For long trips, late night, you're going to take a taxi or an Uber. They aren't crazy expensive like they are in other cities. Imagine taking a long drive, 15, 20-minute rides, $7 to $10. We're getting hit with $25, $40 for that kind of ride. You're probably going to spend an extra $20 to $30 a month on those. This is going to bring your transportation costs somewhere around $70 a month. Many people own scooters out there, which is a super cheap option. I'd have to get a backpack and put my dog on my back so that we can go places. But for life in the city, the convenience of the MRT for just $40 a month feels like a life hack. No worrying about parking, traffic, tickets, the torrential summer rain, because riding them scooters, they're all fun until it starts raining. I used to have a motorcycle, Honda Nighthawk 250, nice little scooter thingy, got me where I needed to go. But I tell you what, when it rains, it ain't as fun. Luckily, when it rained on me, I had a leather polyester jacket with some polyester pants. Didn't do leather pants. Didn't go that far. But if it wasn't jeans, it was a polyester blend where the water would roll off of the pants and roll off of the coat and roll off of the helmet so that I wouldn't be as wet. Socks drenched, but it wouldn't be as wet. If I was in jeans, oh no, I was soaked. I was soaked. From the waist down, I was soaked, right? Because you're not popping an umbrella on a motorcycle, on a scooter. And we're talking about any kind of scooter, a small 25 to 50 cc scooter, or like a moped or something like that, 50 cc's. The little thing with the handlebars up here that's got the long straight where you sit there with your knees right up underneath the thing with your feet together kind of scooter. Yeah, those. Everybody's got them. It's not like, oh, let me go get me a Harley. Nah, fuck it. Get you a cheap bike that runs, anything on two wheels that you can get to where you got to go with. And now that I think about it, because they're importing those electric scooters from out there to out here, you can also potentially buy you some of those electric scooters, and those travel 40 miles, 50 miles on a charge connection in your backpack, take it with you, and you've got you an electric scooter that's going to take you where you got to go for the cost of electricity, $1 to $2 for 40 miles. There's a lot of innovation going around here. Then we're looking at the boring but essential stuff like the utilities, hidden costs that sneak up on you everywhere else. But in Taiwan, they're refreshingly low. You'll find an electric bill, even with running the AC during the humid summer or the extreme heat in the wintertime, averaging out to about $70 a month. Water bill was almost, the light bill was almost, what, $200 this past month? It was cold. Your water bill going to be a tiny $20 a month. High-speed fiber optic internet costs you about $30 a month. Cell phone plans with unlimited 5G data. Yes, unlimited 5G data. $25 a month. We ain't seen that since Metro PCS first came out. I have what, $350 light bill right now. It is. I mean, a phone bill, $350 phone bill. And you thinking, oh shit, $350 phone bill. What the hell is he paying for? Well, we got 8 lines of service. We got 2 or 3 internet lines of service, all attached to the same phone bill. Yeah. But all of this is going to add up to having all of your utilities cost you around about $145 a month. So when you think about all of that, after paying for a luxury apartment, you have about $1,800 left. Food $450, transportation $70, utilities $145. Total cost for essentials about $665. That is the fuel of your life here, and you're barely making a dent in your budget. After the fancy apartment, all the food, transportation, bills, you still have over $1,100 left in your pocket. And this is going to be where you're going to move from just living comfortably into a world of real financial freedom. Because this is a part of the budget that really separates surviving in another country from thriving in another country. After covering the premium apartments and all of the essential costs, if you're left with a massive $1,135 each month, this isn't just leftover change. It's a dedicated fund for fun, travel, and personal growth. It's the money that lets your experience of Taiwan stretch to everything that Taiwan has to offer without constantly checking your bank account. So, what does that do for fun? And how much fun would you actually get with that? First, health and fitness. Memberships of a modern mid-level gym with tons of equipment and classes. Classes, meaning they're teaching you how to exercise. Not a bare bones weight room. It's a premium fitness center that costs you about $45 a month. So if you want to save some money, you could use free outdoor gyms in parks or pay $1 to use local government sports centers. But again, this budget allows for premium choices. Plus, one of the best things about Taiwan is the access to nature. Hiking is basically a national pastime, and it's completely free. You can hop on the MRT and be at the base of a mountain like Yangmingshan in about 30 minutes, enjoying world-class trails without spending a dime after that. Next up, your social life. This budget means that you can have a very active life because $1,100 on having fun when everything costs less than 20 bucks. So whether it's meeting friends for more coffee, going out for more dinners, or enjoying Taipei's nightlife, you will never feel like you have to say no because you can't afford it, right? So a great cup of specialty coffee, still costing around $4 to $5 a cup. A movie ticket is about $10. When have we seen movie tickets in America for $10? The cheap seats are $15 now. 3D seats are like $25 now. Plus popcorn and soda. $150 for a night at the movies. But over there in Taipei, ticket $10. So a night out might cost anywhere from $20 to $50 a night. You can comfortably budget around $300 a month for all of the fun that you plan on having for a meaningful outage every weekend. Seeing movies, having plenty of coffee meetups, or drinking drinks with friends, sake, whatever, without having a financial strain. Then you still have your local travel, because Taiwan is a small island, but it is packed with an insane variety of landscapes, from tropical beaches in the south to towering mountains in the center, and the high-speed rail that can get you from top to bottom in under 2 hours. So with over $1,000 in discretionary income, weekend trips aren't rare. It's a luxury that you're going to be able to do regularly as a part of your life. So you can set aside $250 a month just for travel. That's enough for a weekend trip every single month. It could be a trip to stunning uh, Tarako Gorge, a surfing weekend down in Kentang, or a food tour of historic Tanan. I'd probably be the one doing the food tour. But a round trip from the high speed rail ticket might be $80. A nice Airbnb for 2 nights could cost you about $100. The rest is for food and fun. This ability to regularly escape the city and explore the rest of the island, and this is going to be a beautiful countryside, is one of the greatest perks of this particular type of budget. But what about shopping? Because y'all ladies love shopping. Other random stuff. Things always come up. So you might need some new clothes. I would, because I'd fly over there with little or nothing and be buying my clothes while I'm out there. New haircut, or something for the apartment. $100 extra you'd allocate for this particular type of category. It's a flexible fund for whatever you need or want without it feeling like a huge financial decision. So let's tally all that stuff up. If you get that gym membership for $45, social entertainment for $300, local travel for $250, shopping and miscellaneous stuff for another $150, the total for an incredibly rich and active lifestyle comes to about $745. I know some sisters right now that spent that much money on their Brazilian weave. That's $745 on the hair, not the installation of the hair. The 5 bundles that they needed to make the hairstyle that they wanted, they spent almost $800 on it. This is a whole lifestyle for the entire month for that same $750. So after your $1,200 apartment and $665 for daily necessities, another $745 on having an amazing life. And the craziest part is you still have money left over. After all of that, the luxury apartment, eating out, gyms, weekend trips, you still have $390 still sitting there. She said they sure do 1B. One bundle. Look, I know. I had a very awesome hairstylist, and I used to go to her on a regular basis, and I'll be the only dude in there because I get my hair braided, and being a single man, I'm not just gonna have some random chick doing my hair. I go to a professional. That way, no strings attached, right? You do my hair, you get paid money. That's it. I don't have to deal with no other conflicts, right? I'm in there, and they bundles. They got hair. They've got this, that, and the third. They got, wigs. They've got the eyelashes. They've got the hair, nails, and everything going on. And I'll be sitting over here looking like, shh, I'm glad I'm single. I ain't paying for none of that shit. You know what I mean? But the funniest thing about that is that men want their woman to be natural, not just because it saves them money, but because she puts so much effort on changing who she looks like and who she is without changing her attitude. And we're supposed to love the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde transformation on both sides. And it's wild because you spending $1,000+ per month, $15,000-$20,000 per year to look different, and then claim that you are confident and secure about who you are and what you look like, and claim that you just want to change every now and again. Bro, y'all have not ran natural since natural ran y'all. Y'all been you changed your hairstyle from one purchase hairstyle to another. The last time you seen your natural hair rocked outside of your house was when you could not afford to pay for the stylist, or the stylist had an emergency and couldn't do your hair. That was the only time that you rock natural. You don't go without makeup. It's a necessity for some reason. But look at how much stuff you could have gotten with that same quantity of money. So yeah, you look cute for $800, and now you can't do nothing with the rest of your money because you look cute for $800. Or you could have rocked natural, and $800 you'd have been up mountains, down valleys, in beaches, club hopping, lavish foods for that same $800. See, this is where men think practical and women don't think the same as men. Because the only thing that the woman is focusing on is that I gotta look good. For who? For who? Because from the feminist mentality, fuck men, men ain't shit, their opinions don't matter. Who are you looking good for? And why can you not roll out of bed and look good for yourself without putting all that stuff on? But then when you tell yourself the truth that you ain't putting all that stuff on for you, that's when we start getting that aha moment. I just want to throw that out there real quick. All right. But these bundles ain't cheap. These bundles ain't cheap. But that remaining money, that $390, almost $400, this is where realistic magic would happen. Because this is the part that elevates the whole conversation from just being about the cost of living to being about building a future. Because everything I talk about is building your later, making your later greater. It is not about living in the moment. It is about preparing your retirement. I'm not trying to get y'all to give it all so that your afterlife will be better. I want your old age to be better than your middle age. And if your middle age wasn't better than your childhood, I want your old age to be better than your middle age. You feel me? So this part is going to be without a doubt the most important part of the whole show. It's what shifts the story from how to live in Taiwan to how to build a life and a future from Taiwan. So establishing that with $3,000 a month, you get a high-end apartment, vibrant social life, regular travel, and look, and that part right there gets me, because women who claim that they love to travel but don't go nowhere but to the hairstylist, y'all can leave them bundles alone and start traveling. You know, put you some baby oil on your scalp and just pick it out a little bit and go out there like 1960s Afro Thunder and just go shopping. I mean, just I'm trying to tell y'all. But after all of that, you still have almost $400 left. And just to show you the true power here, let's say that you trim the lifestyle of spending just a bit. And let's say that your entertainment may have been one cheap trip, and you can easily free up $500 to $700 a month. Some months, even more than that. This is a surplus game changer, because if you didn't feel like going anywhere, if you didn't feel like wasting money on something and doing something extra, you got extra money lying around. So in your most expensive Western cities, $3,000 a month income would be gone after the rent, and you might actually need a roommate to help you cover the rent, and then you still have to pay for the basics, leaving nothing for savings, nothing for investments, nothing for vacations, nothing for travel. Right? You're just stuck living from paycheck to paycheck. So here in Taipei, that surplus is a powerful engine for building wealth. It's the money that works for you while you're out enjoying Taiwan. And this is what people miss in the cost of living videos that they be watching all over the world. It's not just about what you spent, it's what you can build. So what can you do? What are you going to do with all that extra cash? You build a serious investment portfolio. Almost like some of the ones I be telling y'all about every week. We put up a lot of them up here. Oh, special shout out to some of these other countries. A lot of people assume that this is a complicated scenario for expats, but it's another myth. It is remarkably easy for foreigners with a residence card, like Nicole, you were talking about getting a job out there. You can get you a residence card to start investing with as little as $100 a month. That's local living. You don't necessarily have to invest in their country's investment opportunities, because if you're coming from the United States, you should have a massive portfolio in the NASDAQ and S&P 500s and all of that stuff going on in the United States, and just forward your money to Taipei from an American bank account. You can do that. But let's just say, for the sake of, you want to go over there and build your own Taipei exclusive wealth. Cool. Strategy is going to be simple. Low cost. We're still talking about diversity, long-term investing. The goal isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It never is going to satisfy you if you try to do a get-rich-quick scheme, but it is systematically building wealth over time using exchange trade funds, or ETFs, which is what we do here in America. You're going to be dealing with basically a basket of stocks that track the market like an S&P 500 in the US stock market. Instead of picking individual stocks, you can buy a tiny piece of the whole market. Or if you wanted to, you could just continue doing what you was doing with me and follow some of these stocks that we've got going on, because you'll build a bunch of money and it'll be giving you monthly dividends, quarterly dividends that you can utilize to pay for your standard of living in Taipei. But it's the most recommended strategy for most people because it's instantly diversified if you're going out there and grabbing S&P 500 on a 9 to 10% average market scenario, or the dividend rotation strategy, the SoarCat, the core satellite platform that we have going across the screen right now. Because as a foreigner in Taiwan, one of the simplest ways to start investing in yourself is by investing in overseas ETFs, which means you're back in the American market through an international brokerage like Interactive Brokers. That is the name of the company, Interactive Brokers. So international brokerage accounts overseas from Taiwan investing in the US market. You might as well just invest in the US market before you go, right? But you can open up an account from Taiwan if you wanted to, wire over a surplus of cash if you're not an American citizen, and that $500 to $700 a month, you can put that into a globally diversified ETF that gives you exposure to thousands of companies worldwide, or you can invest in some local companies in Taipei. You can also, because you have that residence card, get a super popular option in the Taiwan 50 ETF, which their ticker is 0050, which tracks the 50 biggest companies in Taiwan stock exchange. Oh, y'all thought I was going to just feed y'all some shit from America. No, we're in Taipei right now. So just like the S&P 500, you have the Taiwan 50 ETF that does the same thing. It's a direct way to invest in the powerhouse Taiwanese economy and its world-leading tech companies. Once you have your residence card, your ARC, and a local bank account, opening a local brokerage account is pretty straightforward. Many local brokerages have apps that let you set up automatic monthly investments, so you can just set it and forget it, which is one of the best ways to be successful, even if you were investing in America. Is the money that you don't need, you pre-schedule it to be taken out of your account and invested into select stock options, and then just walk away from it. Every time you get extra money, it automatically goes to where you want it to go. It automatically gets invested where you want it to get invested in, and the dividends continue to be reinvested in until you decide to go back and check on your portfolio. Then when you go back and check on your portfolio, holy crap, between the money I put in and the money that I made a ton of money. The core of your portfolio may be about 90% of the core satellite approach, right? Now this is going to go to broader, low-cost ETFs that almost guarantee you to grow over 10 to 20 years, which, if you think about it, compounding interest, you will find yourself financially stable. But Also, the other 10% is going to be the satellite area where you might take a bit more risk on things that you believe in, like green energy ETFs, or even a small speculative amount of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency took a massive dive from almost $150,000 all the way down to $87,000. So I don't know how we're going to deal with crypto since Elon's no longer backing Trump, and Trump is passing bills that aren't so much favoring technology related to crypto. That's how politics changes the way investments happen. Though you have to be extremely careful with these areas. If it's 10%, typically the 10% of dividends from your dividend rotation strategy, or 10% of the dividends from your core satellite portfolio, 10% is still 10%. It's something that can be lost. But the regulatory environment for cryptocurrency is still evolving. So it is a very vital thing for you to use licensed exchanges and understands a lot of those risks. You don't want to just go to some behind the scenes under the market person. I had somebody tell me, "Oh yeah, dude said he was going to trade for me, and if I give him 500, he'll earn me 3,000, and then I had to give him 1,500 to get my 3,000." Nah, bro. If dude is going to make you money off of your initial investment, if if they are going to make you a profit, they need to take their cut out of your profit and then pay you. If you've got to give them extra money to get your profit back, it's a scam. It is a scam. Now, the most important thing here is to just start small. That $300 to $500 a month surplus, which is upward of almost $6,000 a year, might not sound like a life-changing thing at first, but if you invest that consistently in a portfolio with an average of 6 to 8%, $6,000 a year could become over $80,000 in 10 years. And in 20 years, that's over $250,000. When I was talking to you guys about this last week, when I was telling you guys about the 10 to 15% interest, almost 18 to 20% interest, where you're averaging almost $500,000 in 10 years, almost $2 million in 20 years, you're building the kind of life where the portfolio in a 10 to 20 year fashion would pay you more money than you would work for. Digital nomad visas is making money from outside of the country that you're in. Work visas is either having a digital employment or working for the company, and or building a business, because you can get like a business visa over there, building a business where you are coming from outside of the country and you're bringing either labor or a business to the company, and they give you visas that'll give you 12 months, 5 years, more than that initial 90 days that it would take for you to go there, get settled in, potentially meet some locals, find you a decent partner, and build a life with that partner kind of scenario. To go there and come back in 3 months, you are not likely to find the right person, and you always have that risk of being scammed. Do they also have taxes every year like we do? Yeah, they got taxes. There's taxes every year. Every country has. Most countries have taxes. Not every country has taxes. There are some countries like Belarus, and I had a list on a different show of all of the countries that did not have taxation for its people, and I covered that on the show that was talking about residential trusts, non-residential trusts. So if you're looking at, I think we covered it in the Dubai show, the second Dubai show. We also covered it when we were talking about trust, specifically trust, because getting an offshore trust only benefits you if it's a tax-free trust from a country that doesn't tax you where the trust is issued. So when the money goes into the trust builds up wealth, and then the trust pays dividends to its beneficiaries. And because it is non-taxable income, when you get it, it is non-taxable income, which means you're not claiming that money on your tax return. because you only claim taxable income on your tax return. You don't claim all income. You claim non-taxable income. When the tax return starts putting up a section for non-taxable income, that's when you start claiming all income, but you only claim all taxable income. So places like Belarus and other places like that that do not tax its people specifically, then you don't have to worry about taxes. But if you are doing dual citizenship, residency, if you decide to put forth the effort to become a tax citizen of that country, you pay their taxes. But if you're going to remain American and do everything and then just go over there and establish long-term residency over there, your taxes is going to notify their taxes of any profits you make in their jurisdiction that can be taxed. That money, you have to notify them that the IRS from the United States got their hands on it first, because you're not going to get taxed by two different countries on the same money. There is a tax reciprocity or tax treaty between the United States and a few hundred countries around the world, which is, as a residential person, you have the legal responsibility as a United States citizen to report, if you're going to report taxation, all the money that you make from all the countries around the world. So if you file taxes, you can't just tell them about the money that you make in America. You got to tell them about the money you make everywhere around the world. If you don't file taxes, then you don't tell them nothing. But if you do file taxes, you got to tell them about all the money that you make all over the world. Now, likewise, over there, if you're going to file taxes over there, you're only necessarily required to file taxes if you turn a profit from them. But if you get money shipped in from them, they're you got to check the local tax laws, talk to your local embassy, but they usually do not tax you for money being sent to you from another country. As a business, is a little bit different, depending on it, because if you're wire transferring from an offshore account, they're not going to tax you on that. But if you're getting a profit from a business venture of some kind and it can be proven based on the transaction, then you um, again are getting offshore profits from an offshore business, and whatever taxation that they're going to do for that is going to be second to your taxation from the United States. And the United States gives you what, 250,000, I think, right now, of tax blanket, where up to 250,000, they're not going to charge you extra taxes for out of United States profits. So if you made $250,000 from Taipei, they're not going to tax you more money than what you would make if you made $250,000 in the United States. And any debt that you put towards building something in Taipei could be written off on your taxes from the United States. If you were making $250,000 and they wanted to tax you like 70 grand, and you put 80 grand into Taipei to build it up, and Taipei only gave you $160,000, you might be able to write off enough of that to where you don't have to pay that much taxes on the American assets, because you were gone from being an American to international investments and international companies and international establishments. But that's the difference between filing as a person versus filing as a business, because as a business, all of your stuff does not impact you directly as a business. As a person, it impacts you, but as a business, it doesn't impact you. So if you were to do something like this in 20 years, over $250,000, just putting away $6,000 a year and not having to mess with it, that's a lot of money to fall back on. And that would be the power of compounding interest. And it's this $3,000 a month budget that doesn't really satisfy you in America that could take you a long way in Taipei. So the particular steps aren't going to be all that scary. You get your residency scenario, open up a bank account over there, like the CTBC Bank or the Fubin Bank, and then open up a brokerage account and just make sure that any local firms that you use are regulated by Taiwan's Financial Supervisory Commission, FSC, so that you stay safe. You don't have to worry about any type of fraud or anything to that effect if you go through the legitimate channels. So this isn't just about living well today. It is about aggressively funding your freedom for tomorrow, where you're turning a good set salary into a wealth building machine. And this is something that I always preach to you guys about, is that you have to take your decent lifestyle today and turn that into a wealth building machine, so that tomorrow, next year, in 10, 20 years from now, when you are too old to do it, when you just don't feel like doing it anymore, you can honestly stop, because you're making more now than what you need to spend. So after the walking through every part of this lifestyle, from a luxury apartment to the investment portfolio, let's lay it all out. Here's your final monthly budget. Total $3,000 US dollar budget. You rent from a modern 1-bedroom apartment in central Taipei for 1,200 bucks. All of your food, groceries, local amenities, mid-level restaurants for $450. Transportation with MRTs and occasional taxes or taxis like $70. Utilities including electric, water, internet, cell phones, 5G data's $145. Subtotaling for a daily necessity of $665. You have a health and fitness situation for $45, social life for $300, life local travel for $250, shopping for $150, with a subtotal there of $745. Your total monthly expense $2,610. Taking that $390 and adding that as a minimum surplus that you're going to invest in larger lifestyles down the line, as we said before. With a little bit of marketing tweaks, you can save a little bit of money here and there, and then you're easily able to invest $500 or $700 a month, because you're not really going as many places a lot of the times, but you can go down to $300 a month and make yours. And without feeling like you're sacrificing anything, you can still live a very decent life with $3,000 a month and still build yourself up to $250,000 inside of 20 years. Now, you said, does your criminal record follow you to Taiwan? That's a very good question. When you start trying to go to another country to get citizenship, they're going to do a background check on you. Okay. Now, here's going to be the interesting part. You are allowed to travel to certain countries as long as you're not banned based on your background. So if you are like a reformed murderer or something like that, it might be a little bit harder to get into the country. It might not be hard to get there as a tourist, but it might be a little bit harder to get you citizenship there. But again, a digital nomad visa is not citizenship, and a digital nomad visa is not necessarily residency. It is a long-term temporary stay that can be extended because of your income. Yes, it's going to require qualifications. Yes, they're going to do a financial background check. Yes, they're going to do a criminal background check. And as long as you don't have anything really egregious on your background, they should not reject you from being able to stay there long term. Especially if whatever happened to you happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. But these are some of the things that we be telling y'all, not just the ladies, everybody. The choices that you're making in the moment can change what you plan on doing for your life going forward. Because imagine those folks that are protesting what's going on in Boston or Chicago or Minneapolis, and then those folks that go to jail and get rioting and terrorist charges, right? Mass vandalism charges, right? Those folks that was destroying those cop cars, people who got arrested and caught a case for that, right? Because all we see it in the news that they wilding out, but we don't see the aftermath of the people who got caught when it was happening. Because some people got caught, whether they threw the rock through the car window, slashed the tires or not. They were out there when it happened, and they're going to catch the charge as an accomplice to the vandalism. They're going to have to pay the restitution in America, but it is on their record that they destroyed government property. It is on their record that they attacked government agencies. Now, if those charges are gonna have other countries say, nah, we don't want those kind of people in our country, you're gonna have a hard time going to another country. But that's based off of your bad choices here in America. Um, a passport is a private document that's not public record. You can establish a passport if you go through the proper channels. That doesn't necessarily identify who you was in America, but you still have to show, like, for example, if you want to get married, you have to show that you're not married in America, which means that your birth certificate, you're going to have to bring that. Your passport, you're going to have to bring that. If you're not going to bring, like for ladies, y'all get married, y'all change y'all's name, y'all have to show where the name got changed. Y'all got to show who you are and get legal documents from your original government that shows that you are not married to anybody else, and potentially show your criminal background from America that shows that you're not a criminal from that country before you go over there and get incorporated into that country. That's going to be a thing. So that's a fantastic question. But if you've ever been arrested for anything, because I know black people get arrested a lot more than most folks. If you've ever been arrested for anything in your life, can you still go to another country and start a life in another country? Yes, you can. Will they look at your background though? Yes, they will. But if what you did was so long ago or not that serious, they're not going to worry about that. But again, before you buy the plane ticket, one of the things you should do is talk to the local embassy over there and verify that if you wanted to do a long-term stay there, would a criminal history be a requirement? Are they checking backgrounds or whatever the case may be? And if they are, what is the disqualifying part qualifications? Clearly, sex offenders can't be there, but I mean, like, what other qualifications? Is it gun charges? Is it drug charges? Is it physical violence charges? Stuff to that effect that would disqualify you from being allowed to stay there for an extended stay, because that will compromise your travel plans. Can you go there on a vacation with them not doing a background check on you? Of course. If you get off the plane, they're not going to turn you around and put you back on the plane and send you back at your own expense. As a tourist, you can come as you are and spend your money in their country. But when you start trying to become a permanent resident there, when you start trying to become a permanent citizen there, they're going to be a little bit more stricter about who you are. Then, if you got a criminal record, you just got to know they're nosy. They are nosy. They are let themselves in your house and sit at your table while you sleep and make breakfast so that when you get up, they got breakfast for you ready before you go to work, kind of nosy. Okay. They got that. You never eat with anybody. You always stay in your house. So we're going to bring everybody in the neighborhood to have dinner at your house so that you don't eat alone. Nosy. Okay. So somebody going to find out who you is. Somebody going to find out what you done did. And if you got a history from America, somebody know about it. And everybody talking about it. And everybody going to look at you funny because of it. Because you didn't have the courage to tell them that you got a jaded past. Everybody know about the jaded past. They just waiting on you to say something. When you walk in the room and the conversation changed into something else, you already know they was talking about you. You already know. But it is up to you to hold yourself with a better standard here in America first. Don't get an unnecessary criminal record. Do not have a jaded past. That way you don't have to worry about those things. Don't make bad choices in your early years. Don't make bad choices in your relationships. Don't make, well, the ones that you can control at least. Don't deliberately do stupid things that will mess up your future. That way, when you decide in your future to go somewhere else, you're not limited. When we were children, we were told that we could do whatever we want to do and be whatever we want to be when we grow up. And that is true within reason, specifically because every choice we make as a child changes what we're allowed to do as an adult. If we're not making good grades, we can't get into that Ivy League college. If we're getting in trouble as a kid, we're not going to be a government agent, because government agents aren't going to take certain negative backgrounds. Even if you did it as a minor, they're not going to take certain negative backgrounds. Your financial spending habits. Certain jobs are not going to take you because you couldn't manage money when you were younger. Charge-offs, bad credit. You can't get good jobs at banks with bad credit. They're going to expect you to steal their money. You can't get good jobs at financial institutions with bad credit. You didn't know that when you went to apply for the job. Look, I count money all the time, but you can't pay your bills on time. So they're going to assume that you can't manage money. So you can't get a job managing money. So the things that you're limited at as an adult is based off of your decisions that you make as a child, based on the decisions that you make as a young adult. Middle age, the stuff that you're allowed to do as you get older is going to be limited by the bad decisions that you made in your 20s and 30s, which is why I encourage y'all to make different decisions in your 20s and 30s. Make different decisions. Teach your kids to make better decisions. Teach your brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles to make better decisions, because anything that's exempt, because it happened 10 years ago, because it happened 15, 20 years ago, anything that is exempt from this question here, do they look at your criminal record? It's only going to matter if your ass is still not getting in trouble. So take this, for example. Those alpha boss ladies that are taking baseball bats to their boyfriend's car because he cheated on them, spray painting and shit, $75,000 car, you destroyed it. Last year, 6 months ago, you want to go to another country now that it's over, restitution paid up, case is closed. That charge is recent. Just like you can't get into a certain community because of recent misdemeanors or felonies within 3 to 5 years, you're not going to be accepted in certain countries because of the same charges. Okay? So while you can jump off the plane as a tourist, you're not going to get residency with those negative backgrounds. So when you get mad at your boyfriend, instead of cutting up his seats and slashing his tires and spray painting his car and busting up his windshield and everything, just leave him alone. Block his number. Don't talk to him no more. You know what I mean? Because when you act bad, we in a modern time, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, even in the 80s, you could have towed up a man's car and he would have just paid to fix it out of his own pocket and just called you a crazy ex and just left alone. Here in 2025, you tear up a man's car, you going to prison, sweetheart. They pressing charges. He ain't gonna stop you. Not gonna get mad. He ain't even gonna get mad. He gonna look at that car like, yup, I'm gonna get me a new car now. I'm gonna get me a new car now, because most cars are coming with comprehensive and collision. So if the car got destroyed, all you got to do is show a police report, take out an insurance claim. They're going to credit the car. She owed damages for the replacement of the car. He got a new car. But y'all going to jail. And when y'all go to jail for that, then you say, oh, let's go to Belize. Let's go to Switzerland. Let's stop y'all ass at the border. We don't want that kind of behavior around here. You feel me? So you got to understand that if y'all don't behave right in your personal life, you can destroy your future plans. You know what I mean? When y'all be beating on these men, and if these men call the police on you and press charges, and y'all got violent charges, y'all got domestic violence charges. Domestic violence charges will prevent you from getting into a lot of places. And recent domestic violence charges, like you were beating on your ex 6 months ago, you might not be able to get you a nice apartment. You might not be able to get you a house in an HOA community, and you might not be able to travel to another country to go live. Because even as a woman, you can get violent crime charges that will prevent you from being accepted in places that promote peace. Whether it's a apartment complex, buying a house in an HOA gated community, or traveling to another country, any place that promotes peace, and you have a violent criminal history, you're not welcome there. So yeah, you're going to be limited. But I give this information to those people who haven't made those bad decisions yet. Or if they made those bad decisions, it was quite a few years ago. So here's a question. Can you pay to expunge some of that stuff off your record and then it not um, it not be against you. You could expunge it, but Taiwan, Japan, Asia, anywhere, Russia, Ukraine, Bangladesh, Belarus, any country that is looking for a criminal background check, they're doing like a stage 3, stage 4, like Fed level background check. They're unsealing the records to see what got sealed, kind of shit. You're it ain't gonna stop them. The getting your record expunged is going to have your job not know that you got arrested. Getting your record expunged is not going to let another country not know that you got arrested. That's a whole different ball game right there. That's a whole nother shooting nanny right there. They gonna know. They gonna know. They might not care, but they're gonna know. You know. So you gotta behave. And that's why I teach y'all on a regular basis. Y'all gotta behave. So what's the final verdict? Is $3,000 a month a good salary in Taiwan? It's not just good, it's phenomenal. It's a ticket to a life of abundance, choices, and a huge financial opportunity. They let you guys live in a high quality apartment in the best parts of the country's most expensive cities without being house poor or completely broke altogether. So this will let you enjoy an amazing food scene without counting pennies. You might count calories, but you're not going to be counting pennies. It's going to allow for an active, healthy social life full of travel and experience without any guilt, because you'll be working off all of those calories with all that walking you're going to be doing. But the most important thing is that it will let you escape the paycheck to paycheck trap that you've been stuck on in your American lifestyle for the last 30 years of your life. The ability to comfortably save and invest 15 to 25% of your income after all of your expenses are paid is the ultimate luxury in any country on any financial income. It means that while you're living an incredibly good life today, you are automatically building a more secure and free future for tomorrow. Compared to other major cities where $3,000 might barely cost a cover of rent, Taiwan offers an unparalleled quality of life for that same quantity of money. A good professional salary in Taiwan doesn't just get you by, it propels you forward. And the truth is that 3,000 a month in Taiwan doesn't just look like a comfortable lifestyle, it looks like a strategic life, and it looks like freedom, and it looks like a life lived without compromise, where you can have the apartment, the lifestyle, and the investment portfolio. And when you think about how you spending $800 on weave here in America on your bundles and stuff, it might not cost that much out there. You might get your hair done for $100, and it might last way longer. Got to do your research though. Put that into your budget. You might want to bring $4,000 a month instead of $3,000 a month. But if you can live off of $4,000 a month with a high lifestyle over in Taipei, when you're struggling with $3,000, $4,000 a month in California, New York, Minnesota, you know what I mean? You might want to reconsider what you try to do. Because this is a quiet, simple lifestyle. One of the best deals on the planet next to the Philippines or Japan, because Japan and the Philippines are far cheaper. But you can do the same thing with 2,000, 2,500 in the Philippines that you can do in Taipei, and you can do the same thing with $2,000 in Japan that you can do in the Philippines. Because Japan, you can get away with $1,000 a month or less with all expenses paid. So if you rocking it with $1,500 to $2,000 in Japan, you're balling out of control. You're chauffeurs, housekeepers, inner city living with no problem. So there you have it. The complete no fluff breakdown on what a $3,000 a month budget would really get you in Taiwan. And we went from the luxury apartments into downtown Taipei, all the way back to a diversified investment portfolio with a lot of fun in between. And we got a lot of good countries up there because I've covered a few of these: Bangladesh, Russia, Vietnam, United Kingdom, India, Germany, Australia, South Africa, Mexico, Canada, Indonesia, Philippines, Romania, Brazil, Nepal, Ukraine. You can Google all of these shows or look at them on my channel where I've covered a lot of these countries. Because these are some pretty affordable places. Some of them are pretty affordable places to go. You guys would love to go there, love to live there, love to get involved with some of the culture. And some of these cultures, such as Belarus and Bangladesh, Rwanda and Kazakhstan, or small business owners, female-driven economy, where the women work on their own business, provide for the families, and still come back to the house and have that family oriented behavior, that traditional old school 1970s behavior that we lost in Western culture, where the women go out to work, run their business, come back home and be good wives and good mothers to their children at the same time. What do the men do? The men work too, but they have a culture where the man can be a stay-at-home dad and the women are down for that and not devaluing the men. The Western culture is the only culture that does not have family orientation in its society, right? It's every man for himself, or every woman for himself, because apparently the infrastructure can survive without men, from what some women are talking about. But now I want you guys to turn the page and start paying attention to what you guys want to do. Did any of this stuff surprise you guys? Because I know Nicole had a lot of questions. Is it more or less than what you guys expected? Because if you live in Taiwan or you're thinking about moving there, I definitely want to hear your thoughts about it, what your budget might be and what experiences you had when you went there. Because the more that we share, the more that we can learn from one another. And if you found any of the information in the breakdowns very helpful, I want you guys to take the time, especially if you're looking for more of these real stories on the living, work, and thriving abroad. Make sure that you hit those like buttons, the subscribe button, hit that follow button if you're on Twitter or on Twitch, and make sure that you come back to the YouTube channel and you hit that notification button, because I am here to show you guys what life is actually like in other countries around the world. The good, the bad, and the financially savvy, because I've covered a couple countries where I was like, damn, like we went to India and I was like, whew, specifically said, if you're a female, don't travel here. But if you're a dude, you might want to see what you can make out of it. But you've got to get to know the locals. I covered a country where I was like, whew, whew. I can't be biased. I have to cover everything. But I've covered some countries where I was like, I'm not going there. You got some that just don't like people with good tans. That's still a thing. So you got to do your research. Just said I found it very informative. Most of my shows are going to be informative, and then you can back up everything that I say by Googling that and getting your research in, and then finding out how the information that I gave you navigates into fitting with your expectations, so that you can then travel the world and find some of the places that you would like to go to. But anybody who's working the kind of lifestyle where they're making less than $75,000 a year, you definitely want to take yourself over to Southeast Asia, because you don't need $75,000 a year to live over there. You can live under $30,000 a year. You can live under $25,000 a year, because $3,000 times 12 months is $3,600 a year. Okay, and that's Taipei. So that's under $40,000 a year. So if you're making $50,000 a year, you can pay up a few dozen bills, lock up everything, put your stuff in storage, and then fly to Taipei for a year. Especially if you're getting paid off the computer. Which is why Tuesday I was like, hey, you can do this, this, and this, and you can start getting you a job off of the computer. Because if you're getting paid off of the computer, you're not restricted to showing up for in-person work. So when you asked me about is the job market competitive out there? If you're trying to get paid in person, it's going to be a lot harder to do than if you get a job from Taipei as an American citizen where you're working as a digital nomad. When you fly there, you already got a job because they're paying you to work from America. So when you fly over there, you're a local. But if you want to touch down first and then get a job, that's going to be a little bit harder because who the fuck are you? And I don't speak your language. So one of the things that I encourage is don't go there with no money. Don't go there without a plan. If you're going to go there and get a brick and mortar job, you want to lock the job in before you get there. But if you're not going to lock in the job before you get there, like some people want to go there and be a teacher, that's fine. You can go there and be a teacher. But if you're going to go there and be a teacher, you want to get contracted in with a company that has a teacher platform out there. So when you go out there, you already got a job when you get there. You don't want to go there and look for a job. You want to go there with a job. Now, if you're going there without a job on hand, you want to have reoccurring monthly payments hitting your bank account that exceeds the standard of living that you're trying to have. Most digital nomad expectations are looking for something to the magnitude of about $2,000, $2,500 a month. So if you're bringing $3,000 to $4,000 a month over there, they don't care where it's coming from as long as it's consistent and it's legal. What kind of company will hire me in Taipei if I am in the US? The kind of company that is looking for your skill set. So Asia has a large population. They have a lot of jobs. They have a lot of fields that don't have enough work in them. Depending on what you do for a living now, what skills you have, depends on what jobs you qualify for in Taipei. But that's the same question that someone from Taipei asked, well, what job would an American company hire me for when I don't live in America? But 480,000 non-Americans get a job in America and then fly to America and start their visa process. Isn't it amazing how we have 5 to 8% unemployment in America, but almost 500,000 non-Americans can come to America and get a job? You're in health and nutrition. Oh, a health coach. Okay, health coaches and nutrition. I just finished covering a portion of this show. You'd have to go back earlier. We were talking about it. Remember when I talked about the gym membership? The gym membership with the life coach. There's your job. They got people going there and paying $45, $50 a month for a gym membership with a gym coach, health and fitness trainer. That we ironically covered that as part of the luxurious lifestyle of being in Taipei, and you actually have that skill set. So all you would have to do is contact some of the companies out there. You might need to pick up their language, but you would contact some of the companies out there. See if they have temp positions. You're going to be there between this period of time and that period of time, and you'll come and work while you're there. If you can get your foot in the door on a temporary basis, you can potentially turn that into a permanent job. All it requires is networking. But since that's part of the luxurious standard of living in Taipei, wherever the health and fitness centers are, you would just have to reach out to those health and fitness centers, find out which ones have availabilities, and then negotiate your way into a temporary work schedule. And then fly out there and go get that temporary work schedule. Find you an apartment nearby that particular business, and then commute. But if you're going to travel to that country and you're going to look for a job first, Since we're talking about a $3,000 a month budget, you're looking at $2,000 to fly there. You're probably going to bring you about $12,000 on this mission just to be on the safe side. $12,000 on this mission will give you 90 days to get yourself settled. Maybe another month if you don't spend all your money like we were talking about living a high life. But inside of 4 months as a health and fitness coach and a nutritionist, with how healthy they are over there with their diets and stuff, you should be able to find you a job over there in the field of your experience. And that would be the fundamental. You could go there on a 90-day tourist visa and then turn that over into a work visa. That's it, straight up. But if you already have investment opportunities, you've got money coming with you, you're going to be bringing offshore capital with you, and you're going to work in there locally. See how that works? There is always ways for you to do differently. You just have to think outside of the box, and you can't give up and say, oh, well, it's not going to work because I'm different. No, it's only not going to work because you gave up on yourself. Also, also trade options. Yeah. So if you got trade options, if you trade options, you've got portfolio, you've got money that you can bring with you, which allows you to hold yourself down. So you got trade options. You also work as a health coach, a nutritionist. You got at least 2-3 jobs that you can do, because you can always go over there and be a personal assistant. You can get certifications and work in their trade market. Because whatever your skill set is in America, you're going to have to get local certifications anyway. So if you've been trading on a personal level in America, then you travel over to Taipei and then you just get the certification over there to trade professionally. You can trade somebody else's money. You can get hired over there for that. You could start up a business in that. Even as a health coach, a health and nutritionist coach, they're charging people $45 a month for the gym membership. You know what I mean? So if they're charging people $45 a month with a gym membership, you could potentially find individuals where you might charge them $25 a month to not bring them to the gym, help them run in the neighborhood and change their diets and stuff to that effect. Go to the gym on a regular basis. You can go to them. You can be a concierge nutritionist where you go to their house and make sure they eat right. You know what I mean? You got to think outside of the box. The world is full of opportunities, and the opportunities start with your ability to find other people's problems becoming your profit. If you don't change that mentality to where life is hopeless because I don't know another way, you're not going to find another way. You have to look for another way. So you have a great attitude and creative mind. Well, thank you. I've been in this lifestyle for so long. You will learn from oppression that you cannot stay down because you're trying to prove it to yourself as well as to your society that you are better than your stereotypes. So you will find another way to come up. You will find another way to be successful. You will find another way to get to the goals that you want. And if you can't make it in this country, there are over 200 other countries around the world where you can make it. Figuring out how to get to those other countries is the first way to make it, because in order for you to get $2,000 to go to another country, you have to have an extra $2,000. And if you have an extra $2,000, you can get an extra $20,000. And if you can get an extra $20,000, you can get an extra $100,000. And if you can get an extra $100,000, guess what you can do? You can put that money in a certain location where you can start getting paid $20,000 a year to not have to work. And $24,000 a year in the Philippines is easy. That's easy life. So just getting you $100,000 115 grand because you want to fly out there. So 115 grand where you still have a base level 100 grand where they're still giving you about $20,000 to $22,000 a year, and you're living a $2,000 a month lifestyle in the Philippines. You not hurting. You not hurting at all. You don't even have to work. You're choosing to. So because your stock portfolio pays for your standard of living, as a health and nutritionist coach, you're going to have $2,000 coming in from your stock portfolio and another $1,000 to $2,000 a month coming in from your job that you do part-time because you don't have to work full-time, which actually brings you into a position where you're making $4,000 a month, where you can live in a penthouse suite somewhere if you really wanted to. It's not a big deal to retire on 100K. It's not a big deal. You don't have to be a millionaire to say you made it. You have to cover your standard of living so that you don't have to work no more to sustain it. That's when you made it. So when people ask for that $100,000 a year man, it's like, well, what the fuck are you trying to accomplish with your life that you need a nigga with you that make $100,000 on top of what you make? What you need to be trying to figure out is how much money do you need per month to not have to work no more and be happy with the lifestyle that you have. And then when you multiply that by 12, that's how much money you need to get paid every month or every year so that you don't have to work no more. And when you figure that part out, that is the percentage of the investment portfolio that you have to build so that you don't have to work no more. So if it turns out that at 10%, you need 200 grand so that you can live a $20,000 lifestyle, hit that $200,000 mark. And $200,000 could be putting away $20,000 a year for 10 years. It could be putting $10,000 a year aside for 20 years. But when you hit that mark, now you've got 200 grand. Even at 10%, you're getting over 20 grand. And you're able to go live in a country that costs you less than 20 grand. And now you don't have to try anymore. You can still get you a middle-class lifestyle off $250,000 of investment portfolio, paying you 10 to 20% interest. After taxes, 7 to 15% interest. But we have to figure out another way. So consider this your sign that a life of abundance and financial progress is more achievable than anyone ever thought. You just have to know where to look. So I want you guys to continue coming back to the show, because here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, every week we give you another place to look. Every week we give you another idea to think about. And every week we give you other ways to improve your personal life as well as your professional life. So if you enjoyed tonight's show, especially you, Abundant Mango, make sure that you like and subscribe. I'm going to start off by saying on our way out, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And then fellas, I give you all this information to help y'all become higher value men, because when you find the things in your life that you don't like that are inside of your control, you change that. And then you take the rest of your energy and navigate around things that you cannot control. This is how you make yourselves a better life. And ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women by prioritizing the way to get your life to the dynamic that you're looking for, not just looking at the end result, looking at the journey to the end result. And if you partner up with somebody to make that journey easier, by all means do that. But make sure that you find a person that has the same drive, the same ambition, and somewhat of similar goals where y'all are heading in somewhat the same direction. And if y'all work together on similar goals, not only will you find success easier, you will find happiness in having a person to share that success with. So with that being said, we got another live show for y'all tomorrow night. I want y'all to swing back through. We got a lot of stuff covered tomorrow night's topic as well. So I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will.
That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.